Right.
Are we getting started?
Yes,
All
I'm
right.
getting a few more people into the waiting room. Feel free, we can start. Just let the last couple of people in, so we are ready to go.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I am Rico Burton, and I have the pleasure and honor of serving as president of the first and presently only chapter in Arizona, Zeta Theta. We are an educational sorority, professional sorority, and this evening we are very, very delighted that the educational committee, the chairs, Latoya Turner and Gwen Parker, have put together a wonderful presentation that's going to be informative and it's going to be very, very helpful for us. And more than anything, it will be meaningful and memorable. Those are the two things that I always look forward to, something being meaningful and memorable. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to them. I will also say, please put any questions you may have in the chat, any, where you're from, make sure that you're muted so that we're not disruptive. And they will let you know, the hosts will let you know how we're going to run this program and what's going to happen and introduce our speaker and guest this evening. Thank you, Soros.
Thank you, President Burton. I am Gwen Parker, and I am co-chair for the Education Committee for Zeta Theta, and extremely excited to be able to introduce my colleague. Vincent and I have worked together for 10 years now, oh, long time. Vincent is our assistive technology coordinator in our school district and also our lead occupational therapist. We service just over 1,200 students that receive some type of direct services, but more importantly, we work with general educators to work with students that don't need services, but definitely use assistive technology. So on that note, I am going to turn it over to Vincent, and he will introduce himself further and talk to us tonight about assistive technology.
Thank you, Ms. Gwen Parker. It's been 10 years. Wow, time really certainly flies. So again, thank you for the glorious introduction, Ms. Parker. My name is Vincent Su. I am the Assistive Technology Coordinator and Lead Occupational Therapist from the Pendergast School District. Shall I share my presentation, if I may?
I will pull it up for you. I have you covered.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Turner. So on that note, I would like to first introduce myself and the title of this presentation being assistive technology. What is that? What exactly are we talking about? And so if we go on to the next slide, I'd like to introduce myself. First, share a couple of things about who I am, where I come from. I was born and raised in Staten Island, New York. If you're not familiar with the New York City area, New York City has five boroughs: Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and a small little forgotten borough called Staten Island. And I'm from that little forgotten borough of Staten Island, New York. I received my Bachelor's of Science in Music Therapy from the State University of New York at New Paltz. And I'll go into more detail. I had a Greek affiliation with that campus as well. I received my Master's in Science in Occupational Therapy at Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, one of the best 2.5 years of my life. And in 2012, on February 28th to be exact, I relocated and moved to Phoenix, Arizona with my mother, who is pictured in the picture on the left. We're in Verrado here in the Phoenix area at a restaurant last Christmas. So this is a recent picture of my mom and I, and she's the reason that I moved here to Phoenix to kind of support her in her retirement here in the Phoenix area. I am an AOTA, American Occupational Therapy Association licensed occupational therapist from the year 2008 to the present. And as Ms. Parker mentioned, those are my titles here in the Pendergast School District. Ms. Turner, if you may move to the next slide. Thank you very much. And as I mentioned, I have my t-shirt here. I'm not sure if you can see, but I am an honorary member and alumni of the Alpha Phi Omega National Co-ed Service Fraternity. I even have their glass from their conference when I was at the State University of New York at New Paltz. And I served on the Alpha Phi Omega fraternity from 2000 to 2003. And Alpha Phi Omega, if you're not familiar, is a national co-ed service fraternity that was, I believe, created by one of our former presidents. and is in over 150 to 200 colleges and universities around the country. And so I was part of that Greek affiliation for about 3 years and did community service projects all over the East Coast, from New York all the way down to Florida. And it was a wonderful experience for me. And just wanted to share that to say that I'm also Greek affiliated with all of you as well. So thank you very much. Ms. Turner, next slide. Thank you. So as we speak about what AT is and what assistive technology is, let's kind of relate to what AT may be to all of us as human beings. Now, let me ask this question to the entire group. What do you think is the most commonly used room in your home or your house? And I'll take, a couple of responses. What do you all think is the most commonly used room in your house? I see the living room from Ms. Victoria Enoch, thank you. The family room from Dr. Fleming. The kitchen, Dr. Enoch, thank you very much. The kitchen as well, thank you. So yes, thank you. Living room and kitchen are one of the top two, but based on research internationally, thank you, Ms. Price, as well, kitchen was actually the number one answer, based on they've done research on assistive technology in homes around the world, and the kitchen is the most common place that we use assistive technology. So, Ms. Turner, going to the next slide, please. You guys who mentioned kitchen were absolutely right. And so I have a couple of pictures of some really nice kitchens that I would love to have in the future. So kitchens are where we mostly use assistive technology. Now, Ms. Turner, going to the next slide, we're going to explain how we use as, common, ordinary, everyday folk. These are the things that, you might not think of it as assistive technology, but they are helping us as humans do the things we need to do every single day. Now, let's kind of relate that to people with disabilities, right? People that we work with in the workforce. I also work with people that are considered in the elderly range as well, between 65 and 105 as well. So we want to think about AT for all age ranges from birth all the way to 120. So you think about in the kitchen, your blenders, your can openers, your microwaves. I use my microwave every day. All our utensils, our modern refrigerators, the ones with Wi-Fi access, ones that have Amazon Alexa on them, your Keurig coffee machines, your rice cookers. These are all forms of assistive technology that we use every single day, and we don't even realize it. Okay, so just wanted to relate to what AT might be to us common everyday folk. Ms. Turner, if you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to kind of provide a definition of what assistive technology is. The United States of America federal law divides a definition of AT into two component parts. One is a device and one is a service. Let me pause for a second. As you can tell, I'm from New York, so I do speak a little fast. If you guys need me to slow down, tell me in the chat and I'll slow down for you. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. So the first part is an assistive technology device. Now, the term AT device means any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether you buy it from a store like Walmart, Target, even Amazon, or off the shelf, whether it's modified or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capability of a child with a disability. And you don't have to have a disability. It could be an adult that is considered typical, or an elderly person that is considered typical as well. We all benefit from assistive technology, no matter what age and whether or not we have a disability. Ms. Turner, next slide, please. Going on to what an assistive technology service is. So a service is defined that anything that directly assists a child, adult, or a person with a disability or without a disability in the selection, acquisition, and use of that AT device. Now, these could be, things, say you have a child that is considered autistic, they may be going through outside services for evaluations. They might have specific evaluations to acquire that device, whether it might be AAC. You see a child underneath there in the middle. I actually have one with me as well, an adaptive keyboard. So if you see right on my screen, I have an adaptive keyboard with yellow letters that is enlarged for a child that has fine motor and visual motor deficits. So children that are considered to have a cortical visual impairment or a visual disability or a fine motor or a motor disability like cerebral palsy could benefit from these types of adaptive keyboards. On the left, we have certain things like switches that are considered low-tech devices that provide cause and effect kind of tools to allow a child to access their education. If they're not able to do so verbally, they can do so physically with AT devices just like this. The service would also include device maintenance, repair, training for that student, the parent and the teachers, and all the support staff as well. And more importantly, the family, the parents, the mothers, the foster mothers. I'm working with many foster mothers. Just to let you know my current background, in addition to working with Ms. Parker in the school setting, I also work for a clinic here in the Goodyear area called Arizona OPT, which is a clinic that works for people that are considered have orthopedic concerns and children with disabilities as well. I work in the pediatric side in the evenings, a couple days a week in the evening for about 6 hours a week, working with children that are on the spectrum and do have various other disabilities as well. So I do have clinic experience as well as school-based experience. So that's the definition of an AT service. Ms. Turner, to the next slide, please. Thank you. So students, now this presentation was mainly focused for students in a public school setting. And when we all understand what FAPE is, or free and appropriate public education, when we think of assistive technology, we need to think of how AT can benefit students in all these different areas, from mind mapping and brainstorming to how we can help high school students with their study skills, keeping them organized. When you get to high school and college, keeping yourself organized with all the notes from all the different subject areas is really, thank you, Ms. Parker, is really challenging. So assistive technology helps students in organizing their information, or you may also, have students that use AT to, instead of having the notes written down, they might be recorded, or they might have them organized differently, based on their type of learning skill, whether they're visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners. Right now, students use a lot of artificial intelligence, and that is the biggest form of assistive technology, such as Magic School AI, ChatGPT. Just in the past 2 to 3 years, that form of AT has really exploded in the field. And so these are things that we are constantly building on. The field of assistive technology is exploding immensely as we speak. In addition, so we definitely want to include writing, organizational task management, dictational speech, such as text-to-speech and speech-to-text. Allowing students to speak and have their words written into a computer, or opposite, they have, say, a website with information that needs to be read to them. They can have that information read to them as well. All the devices that we have built-in accessibility. So whether you use an Apple device or computer, or you use a Chromebook, Windows-based computer, there are natural built-in accessibility tools that students can access where it is considered AT as well. Communication is definitely a big area that assistive technology is a part of. Our school district uses Drop, which is a cloud-based assistive technology AAC software, which AAC stands for Alternative Augmentative Communication, where it is a picture-based type of system that allows students to communicate their wants and needs. And of course, AT is also available in reading, helping students with hearing impairments and with time management, so that this way students can learn in a distraction-free environment, as well as visual resources as well. That was a lot of information on one slide. I do apologize. Thank you very much. So looking at low tech and no tech, assistive technology in the school setting is divided into 3 different areas: low tech, mid tech, and high tech. Let me explain what low tech and no tech assistive technology really means. Now, when we look at these forms of AT devices and services, they don't include a battery. So none of these devices involve the use of any batteries of any kind. 2, they are simple and easy to use. They require little to no training for the staff to use, whether it's a teacher, an instructional assistant, a therapist, or a parent. So let's go over the things on the top left. You have things such as your visual aids, or these are ways for students that may have dyslexia, for example, or they may have a visual impairment where looking at words on a white paper is considered painful to them. Or you may have dyslexia where information is very disorganized. Now, using these types of colored overlays helps them to be able to organize that information, to be able to see it clearly, and certain students filter in information different with different colors. So some students may like purple like this student, or blue colors calm the eyes and helps the students observe and read that information from print. So colored overlays are a great way, especially children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Colored overlays soothe the eyes to help with reading as well. Same thing with sentence strips. Looking down on the second picture down in the middle, sentence strips allow students to scan one line of text at a time. And when trained, students can then be able to isolate and visually scan each line of text when reading from a textbook, a book, or any sort of reading material as well. If you look down on the third picture down on the left, simple things like sticky notes that we take for granted when we take and jot down notes or reminders for ourselves, students use these as organizational and study aids when they're doing a lot of work. So sticky notes are a super easy way to use assistive technology to help students out as well. Simple things like highlighters. In the middle, we have pencil grips. As an occupational therapist, we use pencil grips almost every day with our students to help students hold on to their pencil or coloring implement or writing implement with a more efficient grasp. Because when you're able to hold on to a pencil efficiently, then you'll be able to get the handwriting a lot more legibly and efficiently as well. So those are pencil grips that are in the center as well. On the top right, looks like a little wishbone, like a chicken wishbone that you have from your chicken. That's an adapted pencil for students with significant fine motor disabilities to help them if they don't have the dexterity to hold on to a regular pencil. Going down one picture down, slant boards are super helpful to bring writing services up and more elevated for students to increase their ability to get their reading and writing done. And we use those as OTs every day in our classrooms too. Going down in the middle on the bottom row is adapted highlighted writing paper. For students with handwriting deficits, writing could be all over the place. They could be doing rainbow writing, writing up like a roller coaster, down, all over the place. Now, when you're giving students this form of assistive technology, it allows them to do their writing so that their words are on the line, the words are written with proper sizing, their letters are resting on the bottom line with proper, what we call baseline orientation, no sinking, no floating letters, and it's legible to the outside reader. So adaptive highlighter paper is a very, very good resource for our students as well. Looking at the top right, stamps for stamping our name. Many of our students with significant disabilities may not have those fine motor skills to write their name on every single school paper. So we offer them the alternative to put name stamps. So they're able to stamp their name and then identify that that is my work. And it gives them that sense of pride as well. On the bottom right, we have visual schedules to help students that may be on the spectrum that are considered autistic, or they may have ADHD. Oh, okay. So visual schedules on the bottom right help those students organize their day. As they're finishing a task, they check it off, they move on to the next one, and helps with that executive functioning piece as well. Ms. Turner, going on to the next slide. Thank you very much. Thank you. So mid-tech or moderate technology AT would include something that would now, one, include a battery, two, require more moderate forms of training and education for our educational staff, for parents and families, and for the students as well. So just this morning, I went to one of our campuses here at the Penriat School District and delivered two of the talking calculators that you see on the top left. This one particular student does have significant learning disabilities. Yes, thank you, Ms. Parker. I will certainly generalize how adults in college could be assisted with these items as well. So going back to the previous slide, using your things like highlighters, using your things such as colored overlays. Many of our students in college may actually have disabilities such as, they may have autism as well. They may have their own learning disabilities. Dyslexia is a very common disability that is showing more in adulthood than it has ever had before. So whether it's low tech or mid tech or even high tech, college students could help, or could use assistive technology to, access, for example, just like the talking calculator, as you're pressing buttons, you're able to hear the number while you're pressing the number. And we have enlarged ones, so we help students with visual impairments access those numbers so they can do their calculations easily without straining their eyes as well. Looking at the next item is a more moderate tech alternative augmentative communication device as well. So Ms. Burton mentioned some of our college students use LiveScribe Echo Pens. Yes, we do at Pendergast have a couple of LiveScribe Echo Pens. They are better for college students and high school students because they involve many steps to their use, and there's a lot more technology and training involved. So we haven't had as much success with more of the younger grades, the elementary school grades, but more with the junior high and high school students. That definitely is very, very helpful for taking notes and for studying as well. Are they able to take these items home? So now assistive technology provided to students in our school districts, there's the understanding that these forms of AT remain in the school setting to provide the student with FAPE, the free appropriate public education that they need in the school setting. We always provide that education to the families, to the parents, to the foster parents if they are in foster homes, so they can then purchase those items to use in the home setting. Under certain circumstances, we have had one student, especially right after the COVID era, when, during COVID, everyone was at home from virtual learning. We have, some agreements that we have where, parents have signed that they understand that it is their responsibility, where we would have them take iPads with AAC capabilities for the student to take home with them in order to carry over what the speech therapists are doing in the school setting. So whatever they're doing in the school, they carry that over to the home, and the parent and the school district had that agreement to help them with that skill as well. So Ms. Parker mentioned we work with other organizations like DDD to provide that technology for them at home as well. Yes, thank you, Ms. Parker. As I mentioned before, I work with AZOPT, and as an AZOPT therapist, we write letters of medical necessity. With those letters of medical necessity, we document the need for that AT and why that student or patient, we call them, needs it in the home and in the community as well. So this way, DDD provides a financial support for that family to provide that equipment as well. So great question. Thank you for asking those questions. And so when we look at ModTech AT, we look at things like switches, which provide that cause and effect AT as well. That keyboard that I showed you before with the large numbers and more visible letters helps students with fine motor deficits with their keyboarding and their typing. The LiveScribe pen that I believe one of our colleagues mentioned before, right in the middle, that is a super helpful note-taking form of assistive technology that is super helpful for more of the upper grade students for sure. On the bottom left, we have a program in the district called Bookshare that allows students with learning disabilities and with autism that may have a difficult time with reading, provide them with online adapted reading books based on their curriculum and their grade level as well. So the student is given an account as well as their special education teacher, and they are then able to give that student access to a book that the whole class is reading. However, it is online, and they're given access to speech-to-text technology. They're given access to dictionaries and thesauruses, and they're given access to different fonts and colors. So this way, if that student is processing information differently, this program will tailor it to that student's needs. So yes, these items can be used during testing as long as they're properly documented in the accommodations and modifications section of their individualized education plan. The last thing on the bottom right is a magnifier, or we call a CCTV device, closed circuit television device, that helps students with visual impairments magnify information. So this way, once they put that book or reading information underneath, they're able to read it. If they have cortical visual impairment, if they have partial blindness, it allows that student to do their reading and writing magnified. And this also applies to testing as well for that student too. So that would be considered moderate mid-tech AT. Ms. Turner, to the next slide. Thank you very, very much. All right. And finally, high-tech assistive technology. Now, high-tech, as you can all imagine, is definitely requires a huge power source. So things like iPads, things like your smartphones, things, that have a higher power source that need to be charged. You see the student on the bottom. He is a student with significant cerebral palsy, which is a disorder that impacts physical function of most of their limbs from their neck all the way down to the trunk and lower extremities and the arms as well. So a student like this would require much higher forms of assistive technology in all areas, which may include reading, writing, their activities of daily living. Everything would need to be adapted for that student. As I mentioned, we use Cough Drop, which is pictured on the bottom left, to help students that have difficulty communicating their wants and needs and may have difficulty with expressive language and receptive language. So expressive language, your ability to say what you want and what you need, and then receptive language, your understanding of what other people say to you. So we use Cough Drop as a form of high-tech AT for all our students that have communication and speech needs to be able to help with their language needs in the classroom setting. And then, so these would be all forms of high-tech AT that would help our students, and they do require extensive training by therapists and support staff for the students, teachers, and families alike. All right. So, Ms. Turner, going to the next slide, please. Thank you. I should actually take this opportunity. I just remembered prior to starting this, I was like, let me think of some other forms of AT that, we all think about school-based settings. We're all educators. However, AT is used not just by students, but by all people. And so just to kind of broaden my horizons, I also, in addition to working with Ms. Parker in the school setting, for about 8 years from when I started as an OT in 2008, my main focus was with geriatric occupational therapy. And I did many years working in the community, and in assisted living facilities working with the geriatric population. So I want to kind of introduce some AT. I don't have it in a slide, but if you look at my screen, I want to introduce this device. If you can see, this is called a sock aid. I'm going to demonstrate how you would use a sock aid. I'm going to bring my computer down so you can see. I'm going to put the sock aid on the table. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sock right on top. I have a bright red sock so you can see easier. All you would have to do is put your sock right on top of the sock aid. And I'm being watched, so I'm a little nervous. So pardon me for my anxiety. I'm just being honest. So the purpose of this is if you have an individual that may have a injury, or they may have gone through a hip replacement surgery, a knee replacement surgery, and they have a difficult time putting their socks on. Okay. Yes. Pardon me, Ms. Parker. Thank you for letting me know. Are there any questions at this moment? Let me take a look at that's a lot of questions really quick. Let's see. Let me take a look at the questions really quick.
I do have a question about, you mentioned how AI is one form of assistive technology.
Yes.
And that's something, as you mentioned as well, that we're seeing more use of, especially over the last, year. I know I myself have started using it just recently. I was a little hesitant for a minute. I was like, no, I'm not going to use AI. And then I saw all the wonderful things that it could help me with.
Yes.
And so do you see that, just from your point of view and your perspective, do you see that like an over-reliance on AI?
That is a big and loaded question, Ms. Turner. A question that I am going to be honest with you. I honestly have no answer for you because I myself, as an AT coordinator, am still learning AI on my own. And it's such a new field that has been, even though it's been in existence for many years, I think the use of AI in the school setting is super new. It hasn't been really tested. School boards now across the country or across the United States are contemplating the use of it. And we need to also consider, yes, students are using it. However, is it being used in classrooms? And is it being used with fidelity? Is it being used with caution? Is it being used with care? And is it being supervised? I think these are questions we all need to contemplate and ponder when using AI. To answer your question, Ms. Turner, I don't think I've answered it yet, so I do apologize. Are students overindulging? I'm going to be honest with you and say, I don't know that answer. And I think it'll take some time for us to really do the research and let people go into school districts and interview families and students and teachers and educators to find out that question, to really dig into that more deeper, because right now I think it is just emerging right now. So to be honest with you, Ms. Turner, it's a question I don't have an answer for you, but I will look into it. And once I get some answers, I'll make sure to get back to you. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. And I think I appreciate your honesty. Because
Yes.
honestly, like being in an education setting, like I don't see my students using it, but I see more and more of adults. So the teachers are starting to use it more. Like I said, myself as an administrator, I'm starting to use it more. Our students haven't quite tapped into it yet.
Mhm.
And I'm just trying to be proactive and think of some ways because once they figure it out, I fear, like you said, it's not going to be used with caution. And now
Yes.
students know that they can just get the answers and anything they need really by
Yes.
typing it into a chat GPT.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And
Ms. Parker, did you have
I
something?
also think we haven't caught up to the technology with the policy that we need to write to assist us with how our students are able to use AI. It's the technology is moving so quickly, and school districts don't usually move as quickly as some of the other items. And so the policy piece, I think, is causing us some concerns as well. We're not quite keeping up with what children are being able to do.
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense, Ms. Parker. Thank you for that response. As Ms. Parker and I have worked on our exceptional student service leadership team, we are currently looking at Magic School Bus AI, which I have been working on and using for the past couple weeks. And let me tell you, it is an incredible piece of technology. It is, if you Google up Magic School AI, you're able to create social stories, you're able to create questionnaires, and you're able to write IEP goals. There are so many things. They have training built in, and we're currently exploring it. I think there's a huge possibility with it being successful, but I think, Ms. Turner, you are right. Adults have more of a tendency to overindulge and overuse AI more than kids. So I do agree there is with the adults and the teachers, there are many teachers and service providers that do use AI on a daily basis. And some are trained to use it properly and effectively, and some are not. So there's a lot of inconsistency with the use with adults and teaching staff and educators alike as well. So I hope that answered your question as well.
And President Burton, I agree with you. I was looking at your comment in the chat, and I also think we're seeing it because we would do a lot of compliance in our department, and we're seeing that teachers are using it more to write goals and plans for students that when they need to, they really explain what it is that they're doing. Sometimes they can't explain it because they didn't write it initially, and sometimes get caught up in meetings with parents because parents are going to ask some really authentic questions. And sometimes teachers can't respond because it wasn't their work.
That's unfortunate because then that leads to a discussion about or a level of distrust now with the teachers and competency level even of
Mhm.
competency. I put in there that I find that my students seemingly their creativity is dulled. I wanted them to come up with a title if they were writing a book and they all went to AI to look for something. I'm like, wait a minute, I want to know what do you think? Right? But that's immediately where they go. No brainstorming, no nothing. And so that's a little disheartening to me. And I don't think it's going to change.
Vincent, I think you may have another comment or a question. Let me see.
Yes, I'm looking. Miss Elaine Wilson, thank you. Yes. I do work with many individuals when doing geriatric home therapy that after hip replacement surgeries, these are super helpful. So if I may continue, this sock aid, if you can imagine my hand and arm as your leg, it has a huge handle right here that you would hold onto and pull. The concept is, say this is my foot. You're going to put your foot inside, and all you're going to do is you're going to pull from the handle right here. And as you pull, it allows you to put your sock on just like that. All right, so that's called a sock aid, which is one of the biggest forms of assistive technology that we recommend to help don socks for people that have had hip replacements, knee replacements, any sort of back surgery that inhibits the flexion of your spine more than 45 degrees. We definitely recommend sock aids. Something else that we recommend as occupational therapists that is considered AT. I'm not sure if you can see this, but this is what we call a hook to help do your buttons. So just to demonstrate what this does is, say you're trying to do your buttons, you're going to put the little hole inside the hole of your shirt. And just to kind of demonstrate, you're going to put the button right inside here. If you have any fine motor deficits or, any dressing deficits, you're going to put the hole right inside. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but you're going to put the hole. It's kind of hard for me because I'm doing this when I'm nervous. But when you put the hole right inside, there we go. It's going inside. And it's taking a little bit of time. I'm sorry. It's going to go through. It's going to go through. There we go. And all you do, once the button is inside, you pull and it does your button for you. I'm not sure if you're able to see that, but something that you can even do with something as simple as a paper clip. People don't realize that assistive technology doesn't have to be this thing that is super expensive, that requires you to spend a couple $100s. You can easily use something as simple as a paper clip to do the same exact thing that this costed over $35. This you can get from Amazon for a couple dollars to get 50 or 100. And all you do is you do the same thing, and then you would do the same concept, but by putting the end of the paper clip right inside. If you make a little loop like I did just now, I'm not sure if you can see, and you put it right inside your shirt, it does the same exact skill of buttoning your buttons. Again, I'm nervous, so I'm not able to do it as effectively as I should have. And I'm going to put it inside just like that. I'm so sorry. I'm taking so much time. But I just wanted to show you the concept that it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to do the same skill. And as I'm doing it just now, I did the same skill by using a simple little paper clip. All right, just like that. And you button your button. I'm not sure if you can see that, but something as simple as a paper clip does the same thing as a $35 device. So that's something, that is, whoa, super cool. And I think people just need to realize that with some training and some thought, you can make AT work for whatever person, whatever age group, to make your life a lot easier as well. Okay. All right. So let me go on to tips and tricks for the home. So these might be some tips and tricks you can show. Say, for example, you have grandkids, or if you currently have children that are school aged and they're trying to get their homework done at home. One simple thing you can do, Ms. Turner, if you can please go on to the next slide, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. One simple thing that you can do, let me first, before I go to that, is mention that something as simple as a pencil cushion. Many of us, I am guilty of this because when I was going to OT school, one of my professors kind of was watching how I was doing my writing and doing my signature. And one thing she noticed is that the structure of my middle finger bone shows that I put a lot of pressure on my pencil. And I'm guilty of that even to this day. So something as simple as a pencil cushion that helps students or people that put a lot of pressure, which may cause some pain and arthritic pain in your hands, could certainly help people write more smoothly, effectively, and hurt your hand a lot less. You can get these from Target, Walmart, Amazon. You can even go to Dollar Tree. I saw them at Dollar Tree this afternoon. And they're super effective and help you with your writing and cause you to use a lot less pressure when you're doing your handwriting as well. So something to consider as well. Mr. To the next slide, please. All right, so this is what I was going to show you. You can simply take a manila folder. Many of you that work in the school setting or an educational office setting, you have manila folders such as so. What you would simply need to do, just like the pictures have stated, is you're going to draw a line just like so, and use scissors and cut out 3 flaps, just like I have done right now. And the purpose of this is to help students that may have ADHD, that may be on the spectrum, that may have oppositional defiance and will not get their work done. A lot of different disabilities this may benefit, even adults as well, even in college. Someone was mentioning about college, right? So something that you can easily do is say, take some work or a worksheet that the student needs to accomplish. You're going to have them open up that first flap and get whatever work is available to work on. All right. You put a timer for 5 minutes. have them work on that piece of work. Once they're done, they close it up. Then the timer goes off. They put on another timer for 2 minutes to do something fun. And when the timer goes off, they come back and they open up the second flap. And then they get the work done on that second flap. Same thing happens. Once they finish that 5 minutes of work and that flap is completed, they close that flap, put a timer, do something preferred. Time is up. They come back, set another timer. Let's finish our work. And after that, they're done. So this helps kind of chunk that work. As we all know, one of the, I'm sorry, did someone mention something? I do apologize. Yes, Miss Brown? Okay. So I do see that Ms. Turner said that she's going to use the folder flaps tomorrow, and that's amazing. Let me know how it goes. I would love to hear how successful it was for your individuals as well. So thank you. This has been working so well in our specialized programs and students that receive IEP support. Try it with your kids that may have a hard time getting work done as well. So Ms. Turner, going on to the next slide. Thank you. Perfect. So this is just another visualization of how that will work. So this is for your reference. Thank you, Ms. Turner. If you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Now, we all play games. My mom and I play Rummy Cube a couple times a week. We play Chinese Mahjong. We play lots of board games. I'm sure you guys all play board games as well. So one thing for many students that may have a physical disability or may have a difficult time holding multiple die in their hands is that they can use something as simple. As I mentioned, assistive technology does not need to be complicated. You can just take your simple water bottle that you finished, wash it out, let it dry, and then put all those die or dice inside that water bottle, close up that cap, and use that as your shaker. So this way you shake it up just like they used a little gum dispenser. They put the 2 die in there and they can then shake up that dice a lot more easily, put it on the table, and then play that game. So something as simple as a water bottle or a little plastic container could be considered assistive technology to help a child or an adult play games with each other as well. Ms. Turner, the next slide. Thank you. So we all use iPads and tablets and now touchscreen screens on our laptop computers. And we use a lot of styluses to be able to access even our fingers now too. Some people may not have the dexterity to use that index finger of their hands to be able to access a laptop or an iPad, for example. So you can use a simple thing like a Q-tip and then take a pen apart and create your own stylus to be able to access the iPad. I have all the instructions there that you can do to make a simple stylus for your iPad, for your smartphone. You don't have to go to the store and buy expensive ones. You can just make one at home with the simple step-by-step directions to help you access that smartphone, tablet, or laptop. All right, so this is and Ms. Turner, will all our participants be able to access this presentation after today?
Yes, all of our participants will receive a recording of it.
Yay, perfect. Excellent. So thank you, Ms. Turner. If you can go on to the next slide. Thank you very, very much. All right, so this one, I'm going to say Ms. Parker is an expert at this because I see her using this every single day in the office to text myself and my colleagues as well. Voice typing, or also known as speech to text. And we use these on our smartphones every single day, and we don't realize how much of a benefit it is to our students. So our students that may have difficulty, writing sentences out by hand, they have the ability to communicate and articulate what they want, but they just don't have the fine motor skills or the executive functioning skills to write it all down, especially when you have a time limit to write essays. This definitely applies to college students as well, and more students in middle school and junior high. Voice typing is a huge success. So if you use a Chromebook or if you use Gmail, for example, all you need to do is go to that 9 dot icon that is located at the top right of Gmail, and you can access Google Docs. Simply go into Google Docs and then accessing voice typing will allow you, once you know what you want to say and how to use it, and the proper step-by-step procedure to use voice typing, it is a great way to be able to say what you want and say your paragraph out after doing the voice typing, making the necessary changes and the edits to your work so that this way you can get your written work done a lot more quicker and more efficiently as well. So if you guys need instructions on how to use voice typing, it is something that is really, really helpful for many of our students. And yes, I would be glad to take any questions regarding voice typing or whatever I mentioned before, please.
I don't have a question, but I do have two comments. My first comment is, I don't see as many of the pencil cushions and pencil grips in the classroom as we once did. And I'm wondering, like, why that is, because we know that they're available and we know that it helps students with their writing and with their grip. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, is it something that we're forgotten about?
Will pay you.
Because it seems
differentiators or characteristics or traits that make
because it seems so basic. Sometimes we forget about the good old tried and true things and we're looking for the next best thing. So I just had the thought about, not seeing pencil cushions and pencil grips anymore.
So, Ms. Turner, you have observed what many of our occupational therapists have been observing these past, I would say, 2 to 3 years. Because there is, I don't want to call it a movement because that's not the right word to use. I would say that there's more psychosocial understanding of how students feel when they are provided with tools such as a pencil grip and they are engaging in a classroom, particularly in a general education classroom, and they are noticing things. They're noticing, okay, why am I given this item to put on the end of my pencil when no one else is using a pencil grip? And so when they notice that, it singles them out. And when you single a student out like that, it makes them feel inferior. It makes them feel embarrassed. We've had many students that mentioned to us during IEP meetings that they don't want to use pencil grips because they want to feel like everyone else and just like their peers. So they choose not to, and they work really hard on their fine motor skills to hold it properly to make their handwriting legible. Whereas if you were to look at how things have changed in just the past 5 to 10 years, 5 to 10 years ago, if you gave a student a pencil grip, they would have used it and they would have brought it from class to class. Now we're seeing way less of that because there's more of an understanding that students want to fit in. And they want to be just like their peers. And they notice that they are not like their peers when they have a pencil grip at the end of their pencil. So I think it's more that kind of a paradigm rather than, a lack of therapists or teachers giving these pencil grips to students. I think we're giving it to them. They're choosing not to use them. And so that's why we have to think of alternatives, such as allowing them to type or using golf-sized pencils. So this way it doesn't look different, but it still allows the purpose of improving their grasp and improving their legibility of their writing. Does that make sense, Ms. Turner? Yes. Awesome.
May I add to that? As a young child, I had a pencil grip, and mine was because I hold my pencil very tightly. And and we used to get the little knot on our third finger, whatever that was, and I didn't want that. But even now today, they have the pilot pens and some of the others with that special kind of grip on there. So I think if we said to students, if you hold your pencil really tightly and your hand gets tired, here's something that can help with that. And then I mean, it just becomes something that anybody could use, not necessarily something very special, but something that's just going to assist to make things a little easier for us. I think there's probably a way that we could offer it to everybody, and then it wouldn't be a big deal.
Absolutely. And thank you, Ms. Burton, for mentioning that, because right now in the educational field across our country and in many countries around the world, I'm sure you and Ms. Parker was reading my mind, there's something called universal design for learning, whereas we try to accommodate all students and kind of tailor it to their needs in terms of how they engage in reading, writing, arithmetic, and access. How are they accessing it? So say, for example, if a student would rather write their thoughts and answers to questions, they can do that. They can type, they can draw to convey their thoughts and their feelings. They can act it out if they're dramatic and they, are very good at acting things out through emotions and words. They can create a video on a computer. They can do various means to get that expression out. So we definitely need to consider universal design for learning, even in the world of assistive technology and education as a whole. So the field of education is growing towards this, and we're trying to let our general education colleagues understand this as well, well, so they can be able to tailor to every student's needs rather than just a couple few. So thank you, Ms. Barker, for mentioning the word universal in the chat as well. So thank you. All right. Thank you for those questions. Any other questions before I continue?
Just one more.
Sounds good. Yes. Sounds good.
So, and again, not a question, but just like a lot of this, we're saying with students, but with adults as well, especially with the speech to text, which you mentioned, because we do that with our cell phones when we don't want to text a message, we hit that button and we let it type it for us. But I also find myself using this more when I want to make notes. Like if I've made a presentation and I want to write notes to go along, like, okay, slide this, I'm going to say this. And it was over the summer, and I was sitting there typing up the notes to go with my presentation. And I thought to myself, why am I typing this when I can just push this little microphone and speak what I want to say, and it's going to type it up for me? Save me so much time.
Absolutely. Yes, Ms. Turner, absolutely. I find that more and more adults use it. One, because also it's more convenient. Two, we might be driving and you might not be able to, type or type a text or be able to input it with your fingers while you're driving. So speech to text is super helpful to keep you safe while you drive, right? And so yes, many adults use it in the college setting for testing purposes. And we don't think about this as often, but when we work with students, when they're in the elementary ages and when they go to college and beyond, they use these accommodations for their entire lives. So as their kids, we have to consider what they might need to do as they go into the field of work. And so using things like speech to text is going to be super helpful when they get into the workforce as well. And we as educators need to think about that transition process too. And I think that is a step that is often confusing and a lot of things are left out, which then does impact a student's future as they become an employee or an adult in the workforce as well. So this is something that I think many educators have to think about as they approach assistive technology and AI and all these forms of tech when we work with our students too. So thank you for mentioning about that, Ms. Turner. Thank you. All right, let me move forward. So the opposite, so this is just a visual about what speech to text will look like on Chromebooks, on your Notes app, in your iPhone, and on Chromebook and Windows-based computers, it looks a certain way, just to show the visual of what that might look like as well. Ms. Turner, the next slide, please. Thank you. So say we're working with a student, or say you're reading something from Shakespeare. It's like, I don't think I know what that means, right? So rewordify.com is a simple website. If you guys are able to and go into a blank web browser, type in rewordify.com, with our students with dyslexia, with our students with those, speech and language impairments, or specific learning disability, dyslexia. They have difficulty understanding that complicated language when they're, reading websites or going onto Wikipedia, for example. So Rewordify is a great website to help you take that more complicated language and turn it into more simple words and simple language for you to understand when you're reading. So, Ms. Turner, if you went to the next slide, it shows you the capability of what Rewordify is able to do. When you go to that website, on the top, it'll ask you to tape that passage of complicated language, copy and paste it into that yellow screen, that yellow box, when you go to rewordify.com. Once you have that, body of text pasted into that yellow square, you simply just click on Rewordify text and voila. In the middle, it shows you all of those complicated words highlighted and simplified. It then gives you so many options on the bottom. If you had difficulty understanding your parts of speech, it will color code all the parts of speech based on nouns, your pronouns, your verbs, your adjectives, adverbs, and it allows a student that may have that difficulty understanding language to understand, this word is a noun, this is a verb, and it helps those visual learners understand written text a lot better. Right now, they're working, I believe, on a Spanish version because Spanish is the second largest language in the United States of America, and Spanish readers need to do that same thing with Spanish text as well. So this is something that is evolving and many students are using this. Teachers could also use this and create quizzes, matching games, different types of educational activities to help students learn language and written language a lot easier as well. And it's helping our students in ELA classes tremendously in our school district right now. And it's a big resource that we use every single day. So please make sure to try it at your own leisure as well to see if it might help you or one of your students too. Ms. Turner, the next slide, please. All right, so this would be my final slide. As we all come from many states in the United States, many of us are Phoenicians here in the Phoenix, Arizona area. I highly recommend, and I do have a link when you do receive this presentation, to a list of AT lending libraries nationwide. Here in the Phoenix, Arizona area, we use AZTAP, AZTAP, which stands for the Arizona Technology Access Program, which is a free program for all people, whether you're just born all the way to 101. And so it allows you to borrow and lend all forms of assistive technology for any area of life, whether it's reading, writing, math, activities of daily living, like I showed you with my sake, for example. If you need something to trial and to try for about 6 to 8 weeks, if you have a disability or even if you don't have a disability, I believe that they would allow you to lend various forms of equipment to trial out as well. So say, for example, you have a person, just like we mentioned with hip replacements. If you wanted to trial various forms of equipment to help you put your pants on and your shoes on, you can go to your lending library and borrow equipment to see what works for you and then purchase that equipment based on what is most successful for your needs as well. So I highly recommend that all of you consider looking into the assistive technology lending libraries in your state. Every state has their own funds for assistive technology based on federal guidance, and we highly recommend you to take a look at what those resources may offer you or your students, your families, your friends, and acquaintances as well. Okay. Ms. McClendon asked if equipment could be borrowed to facilitate a presentation. Great question. However, I believe that when you do ask for equipment from a lending library, they will ask you to fill out a questionnaire. And in that questionnaire, they're going to ask you what your role is in whatever institution you work for. What is the purpose of the equipment? Is it going to help a student in a certain area or an individual in a certain area, like I mentioned, such as reading, writing, math, note-taking, vision. If you're elderly, it's going to help with your activities of daily living, feeding, dressing, grooming. There has to be a purpose. So I believe that if you were to borrow it to facilitate a presentation, you may need to look at a different source because these lending libraries are meant for people to trial out to fit a purpose in life, whereas presentations are for educational purposes. Ms. McClendon, I'm not sure if that makes any sense. So it would need to be for an individual that could use it to help decide on what types of AT to purchase for themselves. Does that make sense? It does need to be tied to someone with a disability or to suit a purpose. I'm not saying that a presentation is not a purpose, but that is more of an educational purpose, which these lending libraries would not be that purpose for. So I hope it does answer your question. And so thank you for asking. Appreciate that. So I believe that is the end of my presentation. Ms. Turner, can you go to the next slide? I believe I have some resources. Yes, some resources for the group to use to get some more information on the field of assistive technology, which is booming and growing exponentially as we speak. So these are just some of the things that are out there. There's way more. We have a major organization in the United States called ATIA, or the Assistive Technology Industry Association, based out in Florida and Chicago, that does a lot of AT work for all 50 states. So I highly recommend you look at your own state's assistive technology department, as well as ATIA, which is a big source of information on the field of AT. And I believe the next slide is my final slide to conclude this presentation. I would like to take this opportunity to thank members of the Zeta Phi? Zeta Theta? What is the name of the organization? I do apologize. The Zeta Theta?
Zeta Theta.
Zeta Theta, thank you. The Zeta Theta organization I appreciate your time, your patience, your cooperation, and allowing me to join you tonight to provide you some information and guidance on assistive technology. It's been a pleasure, and thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Benson, thank you so much.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
work with you every day, and every time you say something, I'll take something away. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's what Vincent said do. So I really appreciate you taking time to present to our members this evening.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. And if you guys have any questions, for sure, let me type my work email here. Please feel free to send me an email. Again, my name is Vincent Su. I am more than willing to assist members of the Zeta Theta organization with any questions or comments or concerns regarding this field. And if you have any questions about a specific type of equipment, please feel free to send me an email and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.
Keep in mind, everyone, that assistive technology, as I've sat here and listened this evening, of course, we're talking about education and as it deals with students. And thank you so much for including some of our higher learning in terms of college. But there's a lot of assistive technology for seniors. Hearing aids is an assistive technology. Okay. The pill dispensers are assistive technology. So there's a long list of things that is available and there are a lot of organizations that have some of these things available to give to people. Some of the magnifying glasses that you can put right over, a little right over, it almost looks like a monocle that you can put right over a book or a page or something. There's the safety aids that are in bathrooms. There are a lot of things. And I really liked something that you said earlier. And so hopefully this will resonate with a few people that have heard me talk about how to make a good PowerPoint. One of the things he says was that white paper can sometimes hurt the eyes of some students. And so they use a different color on top of it to help them read. I tell people all the time, you are not supposed to use a white font in PowerPoint. People with astigmatism, it blurs the letters for them. And you'll see white all the time. But you should not use that. So keep that in mind as you move forward. So that may be something that would help your students and other presentations that you do as well without a white font. You can still use color, just don't use white. All right. Thank you.
Sora Turner, do you have anything that you'd like to add as well?
Well, I do want to offer my thanks as well. You summed it up very nicely. I will say the title of your presentation, Assistive Technology, what is that? If somebody were to ask me, what is assistive technology? I would be able to answer them and I wouldn't have to use Magic School to do it. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Also, I appreciate everyone who took time out of their evening to come join the Zeta Theta chapter for our Teach-A-Rama. Hopefully you found this to be informational. We appreciate you being here. It's so nice to see everyone, and you will receive a copy of both the presentation and the recording. So thank you.
Thank you.
Will the chair people still stay on for me, please? Thank you all and good night. Be sure to invite us to your Teach-A-Ramas as well. And if you haven't signed up for our Thankful for Our Sisterhood, make sure you do that as well. That's coming up this Sunday, and that's our annual one, our 4th annual. We're excited about that. Hope to see you then.
Thank you all for a great time tonight. And to all of you, a very happy holiday season. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, and a happy 2025 as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good night.
Where is